This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. My life's a hot mess, guys.
Dude, same.
Your hair looks really cute, Kat. Have you gotten it cut again?
I actually did a couple days ago.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still losing it, so that's fun.
Yeah.
But I had such thick hair, so people don't notice, but I notice.
Okay. Let's see.
Oh, great. My entire zoo is coming. They opened my
Yeah,
door.
I couldn't escape my zoo. I knew that was going to happen. My zoo all followed me. I'm like,
Gigi, freaking psycho back here. Gigi, let's not. And say we did. Bye.
I was rooting for the dog.
Yeah, I have my cat sitting on my lap.
I know. They just love us, and what can we say? We're so lovable. Oh yeah, so cute. Orange.
Oh, she looks
Yeah,
just
orange
like my,
tabby.
So
she looks
cute.
just like my tabby, orange
I was gonna
tabby.
say, looks like Amy's.
His name is Hobbs.
We actually have two orange tabbies, Oliver and Autumn.
Oh.
And Autumn just is very like she needs attention all the time.
Yeah. I feel that.
That's how my tabby is. Like he's right up my butt all the time.
That was a fun picture.
Sorry.
I liked it.
All right, everybody get situated.
Okay.
Alejandra, you good? You've been quiet. What's that?
I'm good.
Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, there it is. You're a little bit delayed. Say it.
Okay.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody's audio's good.
Okay.
I saw your pictures on Instagram. You look so pretty. The one with you in the red.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I guess we're gonna be starting in about a minute. I can't tell like who's watching or not because I don't know how they do it.
I was
So,
this is so different
yeah, it's a little different
meeting.
than what
Yeah.
we did before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I watched the one from about 2 months ago. This is a lot different.
Yeah, this is on GoToMeeting instead of Zoom. So, yeah, that's why. I think it looks a little different.
We have so many people. This is exciting.
All right, let me get my paperwork.
Wonder where Tiare is.
Yeah, I'll give her another minute and then we'll start. Because she's not here. I don't
Did you
know.
text her?
I don't have her phone number. I only have her email. Do you?
Yeah, I'll text her right now.
Okay.
She's having issues getting on.
Okay, we'll give her like a minute.
You want to email her the link again?
Yeah. Okay.
She needs a webinar 9-digit ID. The Sam Hill is that?
Did she ask her if she downloaded the app?
Son of a.
Hey, Kat.
Yo.
I think the web ID is the last four, like when you have the link. It's the numbers in the bot after the join.
Oh.
It'll tell you the numbers on there. So it's the 419-546-813, I think.
Oh, got it.
Thanks, Tiana.
The 9-4. Wait, what one is it?
Not-
I think it's 419.
Oh, yeah. Fight. Yeah, that one. I got. Okay.
Yeah,
I said.
yeah.
Okay. We're just waiting for one more person to come on and then we'll start. So if you're not a panelist, please leave yourself on mute and your camera off. It might be her.
Oh, there she is. I feel like the Jeopardy song should be playing. Or like the Jaws.
I hope she doesn't have too hard of a time getting in.
She's texting right now. Let me see.
Okay.
Oh, she's having an issues. I'm not sure. She says
I
it's not.
I emailed her the link.
I did too.
Okay.
I emailed her everything I think I can.
Did y'all email her the new link? Because the original one for me didn't
Yeah,
work.
I emailed her the link that Amy had emailed me 3 minutes ago
Yeah.
because I lost the link.
Instead of the app, tell her to go to like www.gotomeeting.com and do it that way.
Yeah, I sent that to her too.
Okay.
She's trying always, she said.
Otherwise, I can give her the email and the password and she can just get on. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if two people can be on that way at the same time.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't want to hold us up too much longer. So we might just start and then if she can get in.
Camera isn't
Okay.
working, but I think she's on here.
Okay.
Tiare, are you here? Can you talk? Well, you can start and I'll keep troubleshooting.
Yeah. Okay. Just mute yourself for now, Kat. All right, welcome everybody. So we are the Young Adult Panel. The National Foundation has so graciously allowed us to run this young adult panel, and today we're going to discuss mental health in capacity with chronically ill patients. We have a lovely panel of about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us. There she is. Hi, Tiari. So,
Oh my God, finally.
so if you're not a panelist, please leave yourself on mute and your video off. And I'm going to go through and basically just kind of introduce ourselves and what we're here for, and then I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves. First, I'm going to see if I can change Tiari's name.
Oh yeah, it's my husband's name. Whoops.
Which it's not going to let me.
There
Can
we
you do
go.
it on? There you go. Okay. All right, guys. Sorry for the delay. This meeting is going to be recorded. And just some housekeeping things. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, put them in the chat box, and then later on at the end we will have time for questions. So then I can go through and read them, and then you'll be able to get your questions answered. So today we're going to talk about mental health, and I just wanted to quickly give you the definition of mental health before we started, because it could be a lot of different things for different people. So when I was looking on the internet looking for a good definition of mental health, I came across this one, which says mental health refers to our cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being. It is all about how we think, feel, and behave. The term mental health is sometimes used to mean an absence of a mental disorder. Mental health can affect daily life, relationships, and even physical health. So, you know, a lot of times when we talk about mental health, people think it's automatically I'm depressed or I'm anxious. Yes, that is the case, but it's also so many different things in your life. So these lovely panelists and myself are going to kind of dive deep into what mental health looks like for a chronically ill person. Most of the panelists are scleroderma patients, except for our one lovely patient, Tiana, who is has some heart issues, and she'll tell you a little bit about that. So right now I wanted to quickly introduce the panelists, and then we'll get going. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that's watching this that if you are triggered or you feel uncomfortable with any of the issues that we're talking about, you can mute us, you can log off. You know, we are not medical professionals. This is just our experience with mental health and how we cope with it. If you're going through anything similar to what some of the panelists or myself are, I would strongly advise to talk to your doctor or therapist or somebody in the medical profession. Like I said, we are just telling our stories. So they're significant to us. But if anything like this is happening to you, the only thing I can say is please, please, please talk to somebody about it. Yeah, so let's start. So I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. I'll go first. Most of you guys know me. I'll be the facilitator for this. My name is Amy Gietzen. I'm a scleroderma patient of 20 years. I do a lot of work with the Scleroderma Foundation. And they so graciously asked me to facilitate. So I'm going to hand it over to Ariane. Could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Ariane, I'm from the Bay Area, but live in Oregon now. I've had scleroderma since 2006. Affected my last year. I was playing college sports, so that's when I really noticed issues in the way I played. Had a stem cell transplant in 2012 to stop the progression, and thankfully I'm still here because of it. I'll pass it on to Thomas on my screen.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Frye. I've been a scleroderma patient for almost exactly 6 months now. It was about a year-long journey getting that figured out. Just like Ariane, I used to play sports and stuff, and I noticed that I always had some weaknesses and issues would flare up. Just thought it was from sports. Fast forward a bunch of years, it wasn't from sports. Yeah, I just noticed, you know, my hands and my feet were constantly swollen, losing a lot of strength, couldn't move them much, and that's how that whole ball started getting rolling. I'm going to pass it on to Kat.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kat Davis from Spokane, Washington. I'm 33 years old and I was diagnosed when I was 22. So I've been fighting scleroderma for over a decade. I've had 2 stem cell transplants, done everything, and I'm actually now on palliative care, soon to be on hospice. But yeah, living life and it's going uniquely, which is why we're all here. Tiana.
Hi, you guys. I'm Tiana. I am 26 years old and I live in Spokane, Washington. I was diagnosed with my heart issues, cardiomyopathy, in about when I was like 21. That's when I got most sick. But basically, it's a genetic disorder. I can't even talk today. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. One of those days. It's a genetic disorder. My mom actually had a heart transplant 30 years ago. And so it was passed down to me, but I didn't know I had problems until I was 21. I've had multiple surgeries, and now I am currently living with an LVAD, which basically pumps my left ventricle for me. And I'm waiting for a heart transplant. So hopefully, I'm hitting year 5 right now, but hopefully it will be soon that I can get my heart transplant and kind of further my life a little bit more. I'm passing it to Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Lippincott. I'm 29 years old. I've had scleroderma for almost 2 years now. I found it pretty quickly. I was diagnosed within like 3 months because my hands were really swollen. Yeah, it's been a crazy 2 years, but so far so good. I will pass it along to Tiari.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Tiare. I'm 30 years old. I'm from Kona, Hawaii. I've been a mental health patient since I was 13, and I've been a scleroderma patient since 2015. And lots to talk about. I'm really excited for today. And I'll pass it on to Alejandra.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandra Serrano. I'm 27 years old from Los Angeles, California. I'm a support group leader for the Southern California chapter. And I had scleroderma for 9 years.
All right, thanks everybody. I want to kind of just dive right in deep and talk about what mental health kind of looks like for you on a daily basis. So would each of you guys kind of run through kind of like 2 examples of what a severe mental health day looks like for you, whether it be depression, anxiety, isolation, what that looks like in your average day-to-day in your life and how that makes you feel. Is there anybody that wants to kind of take it away first, and then we'll kind of just do the same thing, call out one another? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll go first. So for depression, I would say one of my top ones is I get really triggered by my healthy friends and the healthy people in my life and able-bodied. The green monster envy gets me quite a bit. And because I'm so sick and not able to do things, I do get jealous, and it's just a really hard battle I have with my mental health. So my depression, that is one of my triggers, and I definitely tend to hide in my room, ergo why I'm here right now. But yeah, I hide away from everybody, and I kind of hate everything and everybody, and it's the worst because I'm not like that in general. Like, that's not my personality. And then with anxiety, I just hate it. Like, I never suffered from mental health issues until after I was sick. And so it was a learning curve for me. And with my anxiety, it really stems from being overwhelmed by absolutely nothing. Like, I've been on disability for 10 years, but because I never know how I'm going to feel the next hour, let alone tomorrow, the next day, like making plans and stuff like that is very anxiety inducing, and I hate letting people down. And so that's why I would say my anxiety, yeah, it just sucks. Sucks.
Great, thanks, Kat. Anybody else kind of want to jump in? I know for me, I often feel isolated. It's kind of like the same thing with Kat, like where you have that envy about doing things that you used to do that you couldn't do, or that you can't do anymore. Like I was a dancer, I was a swimmer, I used to go to the gym every day, and having that taken away from you is a really hard thing. So I kind of feel like my friends ask me to do something or go somewhere and I can't, or I'm just in my head and I don't feel like it, then I feel even worse because I feel isolated where, you know, I'm always the one left out. I don't know, Thomas, do you want to talk maybe about like what a day with you having some mental health issues kind of looks like?
Yeah. Strangely enough, it's always worse at the beginning and end of the day because when we wake up, like we can't move. Everything's like stuck. I feel like the Wizard of Oz needs like get my oil can out, start squirting in there and be able to move. So you like just trying to get your day started. It always takes like 2 or 3 hours to get moving. It's always rough. You have an early appointment, you gotta get up at 6 to get somewhere at 10. It's just a huge hassle, makes you feel alone. And then just more frustration because everything is now hard. Like
Right.
writing became hard, typing, walking, sleeping because you get stiff and then you hurt. Like just everything became difficult. So like just being able to sit there one day and go, huh, easy day does not exist anymore.
Right.
It's everything became hard.
Yeah, and that's kind of weighing on you, you know, that weighs on you emotionally. Like you get, I'm sure you like everybody else gets frustrated with that, with not being able to do something that was so simple, you know, maybe like a year ago, or for me, 20 years ago. You know. What are some of the triggering points for you guys? Like how do you react when you find yourself in a situation where you're just in like that awful mental health state, like you're frustrated, you're angry, you're depressed, you don't want to be around anybody? What are some triggering things for you in your life that you would want to talk about, or a situation where you felt very triggered by something or someone, and how did you kind of cope with that? Anybody want to dive in, or I'm going to start calling on people? Amanda?
I can. Yeah.
Okay.
So I the year that I got diagnosed, I also was getting married, and after my diagnosis, I noticed that when people were telling me how, like, I was like, oh, I'm tired, and they'd be like, oh, I'm exhausted too, and I would just get, it's not that I wasn't sympathetic, it was that we're going through two different things, and that's kind of like why I started going to therapy. Was my husband and I were bickering back and forth, and he's like, well, I just need more sympathy from you, and I'm like, I don't know what you want me to tell you because I'm exhausted, and it's a different kind of exhaustion. Like, you can go take a nap and you'll feel better. I will go take a nap and I will feel worse. So like that's really triggering for me, and it's something that I've been working on. And I also don't know if other people do this, but at work, like, I overexert myself to be like perfect, to like overcompensate. So I know that that gives me a lot of anxiety. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's a good example, Amanda. Thank you.
And I was gonna say, for my triggers, my main thing that, or one of the things that really helps me, is reaching out to a sick friend and venting to them, because they're truly the only ones who understand. And hearing back like that affirmation that I'm not crazy or that they understand on some level is such a blessing. And it really helps me to remember that, like, I'm not alone, as much as I hate that other people suffer. So having a community of people who are sick, it has been everything for my mental health.
Yeah, for
That was
sure.
what I was probably gonna say. I was gonna say, when I'm dealing with stuff like that, I'm a lot like Amanda, I feel like too. I'm an overworker, I'm a go-getter. I will work myself until I can't anymore. And I think a big trigger for me too was like being at a job or waking up one day and I just have absolutely no energy. Like there's no way I can go into my jobs, you know, and I know I physically can't do it. And having people in my job, in my workplace be like, well, I'm tired too. I work, and it's like, it's not the same, it's really not the same. And I would have understanding bosses, but I also, in that time frame, I had no understanding bosses. And that's when I knew it just wasn't going to work for me, because if you don't understand that I don't have the same energy that someone that lives a normality life, then it just was a big trigger for me. But I'm just like what Amanda kind of was saying too with that. But yeah, Kat was right. It's easier for me to, when I'm having those issues, reach out to somebody that can relate to that situation of being exhausted, with this panel, just the people that are on here. It's like it gives you a community of people that you're able to reach out to understand. And that's exactly what I kind of feel like too.
Yeah, for sure. I think, on top of dealing with everything with your physical illness, then you have to deal with the emotions that come with that. And then to have, like Tiana said, somebody like your boss or a coworker or somebody that just doesn't understand or chooses not to understand, that's like another layer of the cake. So, a lot of people think depression and anxiety are mental health issues, but it can also be like just the emotional toll of having to constantly tell people, no, I can't do this. This is why I'm sick, or, and having that rejection and being frustrated. It can be so overwhelming for patients. So I get that completely. Anybody else want to share a little bit about what's triggering for them? Alejandra?
I think my trigger comes from stress when I have to be dealing with doctors or with anything to do with my insurance, or even getting a prescription, get it on time. That's when I know that if I start getting stressed out, then my anxiety starts coming.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think, Tiari, did you want to jump in? I saw your light go on.
Yeah. So for me, I definitely see kind of both sides of the coin. I do get triggered when people try to out suffer me, and they try to say like, oh, well, that's nothing compared to this, or well, you're fine now, or at least you don't have cancer, and they try to make something, they try to sort of invalidate what's being talked about.
Minimize
Yeah.
it.
And I also get really annoyed when I'm being overly babied and people are checking on me constantly, like, are you okay? Do you need help? Can I open your water? Can I do this? And they're like bothering you. So both sides of it. It's finding that happy medium of being left alone but not too much.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I think all of those things can be triggering. And are there times when like, speaking of what Tiari said, where you feel, where you're constantly being asked, are you okay? Do you need help? Can I open this for you? Are there times when any of you feel like you're a burden? Like, with your caregivers or with your friends, or anything like that. I know for me, my dad's my caregiver. He helps me out a lot. He's like my shadow. And sometimes when I'm having a good day, I just want to be able to be like, no, I will open that jar myself when I'm ready. So I think that I do feel like a burden, that like my parents can't just go and celebrate their anniversary and leave me home. Like they have to make sure that somebody's here to help me. And then the financial costs of helping me to take care of myself too weigh on them. So it does make me feel like a burden. Do any of you feel like that? And then, that can also lead to emotional stress and sadness. And how do you guys cope with that if you do feel like you're a burden? Ariane, we haven't heard from you yet, so I want to get your take.
No, I actually, I don't feel like a burden. Matter of fact, most of my family, friends, and coworkers, staff, they they don't ask me for help anymore because I'll probably do it or I'll ask them. Like I used to be the kind that said I'm not going to ask, but now it's like I'm not going to struggle to open up something. I'm just going to have you do it because I used to help people, so I figured might as well it's my shine. And then all my family and friends live hours away or in a different state, so I don't have no one to keep helping me anyway that much. So I've been fortunate enough that I've modified things in my home to where, or I buy a lot of. I got like 3 adaptive websites, and like if I need to open a bottle, I buy one of those things. So I've been fortunate that I'm not in the same condition as before the transplant, to where I can kind of do more things on my own.
Is it frustrating for you though, I guess on the other spectrum, that nobody asks you if you need help? Like, do you feel ever frustrated that people don't ask you and they see that you maybe, you are a little bit worse off than they are, and they just, do you feel like it's just, they just breeze by you?
I think the doors, right? Some of these doors still aren't handicap accessible. So, and if I know they've seen me and I'm heading the same direction, I might say something to them for not holding that door. And I'll say it out loud. I'm like, I know you seen me. And then, oh, I'm sorry. They knew exactly what I was talking about. But for the most part, like, I can't raise my arms and I'm in a scooter or walker. So people kind of see it. They're like, I'll help you with that. But a lot of times now, more people say, can I help you? Because I guess maybe other people have said, hey, I don't need help. Like there's a lot of people, and I remember those days too, right? Like I'm helping somebody and they're like, I don't need your help. So now we're at the point where people are scared to help. But
Right.
no, when I'm out and with the dog or the scooter, it's generally people just usually help if I need it, or I'll just ask them.
Yeah. That's good. I
I
like
think
that.
my favorite was asking a supporter of somebody, and I could tell he didn't want to help. But I asked him in front of people on purpose, and he just reluctantly helped. But that was the only time someone didn't want to.
Right.
I was just gonna chime in that
Okay.
I definitely always feel like a burden. Amy and I are kind of in similar situations where we get to live with our parents, and it's not my choice. Like it's just the fact that we're so sick and we need help, but it's a really big struggle. But I think the main thing that like I want to point out, and I don't know if any of you have been through this, or some of you are newly sick. So yeah, anyways, the burden thing is like I've lost a lot of my family because of the sickness. And friends obviously, but like that's been a really, really hard part, and that's been obviously played a huge toll on my mental health. It's been absolutely devastating. I lost a sibling, 4 nieces and nephews, you name it, just because I'm sick. And they didn't believe me or whatever you want to say, but like there's so much that comes along with sickness where then it's just horrible. So anyways, that's another just yeah, I always feel like a burden and I hate it. And I'm like 1 minute I need help and the next second I don't, but like I get flopping mad sometimes because I'm like, I'm 33, I can do it. And then 3 minutes later, I'm like, well, now I need help taking a shower. So this is great. So I have zero
Right.
pride left, but I feel for you out there who feel the same way.
Right. I mean, for sure. I think, feeling like a burden can kind of get you down and, you know, make you feel like maybe you're not as, you don't have much worth because you're dependent on all these people to do things for you. I want to kind of get into kind of what you guys feel about mental health as an issue. Did you have mental health issues before you were diagnosed? Like I think Tiari said that she had some mental health issues since she was 13, or did it kind of come on after you got diagnosed? And would you be willing to share a little bit about that? I'm gonna hit over to Tiari if she doesn't mind, because I know she said she was diagnosed before, and I'd like to get kind of her take on that and like what she feels like were clear signs of depression or anxiety or whatever that mental health issue you had, and what were not so clear signs for that, if that makes
Sure.
sense.
So I was diagnosed, I had juvenile onset. So I was diagnosed officially when I was 13. But they think I had it longer. There are some things like bipolar and stuff that run in the family. A lot of people think of depression like a person with their head down walking down the street, totally abject. But a lot of the signs for me early on were very subtle. They were just kind of a lack of enthusiasm for things that I used to like doing, and low energy, and I got really kind of fearful of things for no reason. Not to the degree of paranoia, but just kind of I didn't want to try things, and I didn't want to put myself out there, and it affected my self-esteem. I started to have like kind of mild memory issues, and then it progressed to more of the anxiety, where I started to have really bad nightmares, and I had trouble falling asleep at night, and then they knew something was off, that it was not just teenage angst, but something more severe was going on. But I wasn't put on medication for it until I was older. They didn't feel like I should be on medication at that age. So I've been on psychological medicine since I was about 17. And it did change quite a bit from before I had a physical illness to after. It was almost like all my fears came true. Like all of the dread that I wouldn't amount to things and I couldn't be successful, the fears that I had kind of came to life in a way. So I didn't process that well at all, and that's what led to my severe mental health issues. So definitely, to parrot what Amy said earlier, if you feel like something is off, don't wait to get help. It's much better to get it sooner than later so that you give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing, Jerry. That's great. I know for myself, I think for a lot of others, I was always a happy person. I'm super happy. And then when I was diagnosed, I started to feel like I didn't like being in my skin. I didn't like getting up in the morning and looking at myself and seeing how my body was changing, how I couldn't do things anymore. And, maybe it's very different for like Ariane and Tom because they're men, but I just felt like I wasn't happy with anything about me inside and out. And I felt like I didn't want to be living in my body anymore. So that to me was an issue when you are thinking about you don't want to be in the skin that you're in anymore. So I really had to go and talk to somebody. Have any of you guys ever had instances where you felt some of the physical changes of your illness can lead to some of the mental issues or mental health issues that maybe happened after your diagnosis? Tom, I see your light on.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as like the necessarily like me and Arion being men, it might not necessarily be like the attractive factor, but it's more of like now my fingers are permanently like a flag post.
Yeah.
And like a lot of my joints don't move well. And I jokingly started telling people that I walk like a hitched German Shepherd dog. My right leg's constantly in like a driving position now. So it's more of necessarily like a function. Is looking down and physically watching yourself change. That I think my issue is it's not done yet. So it's just every like couple of days I'm like, oh, they're a little more crooked, or oh, they turn more, oh man, my leg's a little more stiff. So it's more of that, I think, on like the male side, more of the function and brawn versus the actual like, oh, someone might not find me attractive anymore.
Right.
Because our value is more in strength.
Yeah,
Generally.
for sure.
So.
For sure. I can get that. Like, you know, because as men, there's a stigma of you're the caretaker and you're the provider and you know, you're the protector. And I can see how that would be triggering or frustrating as a man. Because as a woman, I feel not necessarily the same way, but there is still that issues. And I don't look the same anymore. I'm not attractive. I'm not going to be able to watch or have kids or be able to hold children or do housework, or not saying that women, that's all they do is housework and have babies. I'm just saying, like, in general, as a woman, you know, you want to get married, some of us want to get married and have kids and things like that. So, Ariana, I see your light's on.
Yeah, Tom's a good dude because I was looking at my appearance like, damn, this is jacked up, right? Like I was like, I wasn't like super fly, but I was cool, you know. Like, damn, and people will let you know too. Like there's people that see my old Facebook, they like, oh, you look cute, you know. They'll tell you right to your face, like, damn, all right. But then physically as well. I mean, I just go back to what you said earlier. The hardest part for me was that transition where no one knew what was going on, but I could feel it. And then even when I get diagnosed, no one knew. I'm still dealing with those problems, kind of like what Amanda said. I'm fatigued. I can't raise my shoulders, but I can't tell them why. Or even if I do, they're like, all right, whatever, you know. So that last year of sports was probably the hardest part of my life because I was also working with offenders, and now my job also is fighting with me. And I was dating somebody, and now she also doesn't believe that I'm, you know, everyone thinks I'm faking all week that I'm tired or don't want to do anything. So I think that was hard, but luckily what helped the most was having the same group of core friends from that day of being diagnosed until now. I mean, they were, because they knew enough that I am a workaholic, like Tiana said, or that Tom, like I played sports to the fullest. I never was half-assed, as we'd say. So, but yeah, not being able to play basketball even just for fun or work out, because all my male friends still work out, and you can tell when I hang out with them that, you know, they're still 6'1" or 7 feet, 250, and then here comes this little skinny dude with a walker trying to hang out at 24-hour fitness. So that kind of sucks, but you know, I'm taking it all like it's just what it is. I can't do nothing about it. At least I
Right.
still have a mouthpiece, so I can still talk. So that's the good part.
Sure, for sure, yeah. Now, I want to kind of take over to Tiana because she has a different kind of illness than we do. And I wanted to get your point of view on how maybe some of the physical abnormalities of your illness can kind of trigger some mental health issues, if you're willing.
Yeah. I think, you know, growing up, it was not really, you know, but being 21, you know, everyone's going out and, you know, having a good time and doing all these things. And I prepped. I remember right before I got super sick, I prepped myself and lost a bunch of weight and like was heavy lifting in the gym and like got the body that I wanted. And then I got extremely sick. And after, you know, a couple months went by and I actually ended up living in the CICU for 60 days. And when I say they scarred up my body, they scarred up my body. I had bruises all the way on my arms. I've had millions of swans in my neck, so I have lots of keloids on the side of my neck. I now have my LVAD, and my LVAD comes through my stomach. So obviously I have a big bandage on my stomach and have my chest cracked and everything. And being 21, you know, that affected me a lot because I just felt like my whole outer body just like really didn't look pretty. I didn't love anything that I was in. I hated what my stomach looked like. My tube was always like just super annoyed and super red. And I was really super allergic to all the bandages. So I'd always have hives growing all over my stomach, you know. And my friends are just like super into like short little crop tops, you know, and pants. And I always wanted to hide myself. Like I just wanted to hide everything. I didn't want anybody to see. And also too, it's a backpack technically, but I made it into a fanny pack. I made my own little thing, but you know, that catches people's eye quickly. You know, they're like, oh, I just thought it was a fanny pack, but I was wondering why you had a cord hanging out of your shirt. You can see it hanging, you know, and it's just a lot. You know, people do ask me to, you know, like if I post a picture and they see my, you know, my tubing, they're like, well, what happened? You know, and I think that's really affected my mental because it's like so many people are so quick to judge a book, you know, outside of a book, you know, without really reading into people, you know, and I'm learning to like love them, but also it still very much affects me every day to like what I have to wear, how do I have to dress? You know, I can't just throw a dress on anymore. I have to like wear pants and a shirt. I can't, you know, and things that like I never thought would affect me every day has affected my whole style. It's changed me a lot, but for the better. But, you know, definitely affect me for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
I think, department.
for sure. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You don't really realize other people's struggle until you kind of have some struggles of your own. And then I think it makes us all of us super empathetic of other people. And a lot of times you don't get that empathy back. So it's hard. Yeah. Thank you guys for sharing that. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Amanda?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a different case. So like before I was diagnosed, I actually had gastric bypass surgery because I was overweight, and for my whole life, I always felt that like I needed to change that about myself. So I was fad dieting, going to the gym all the time. And then after my diagnosis was like a year after I had surgery. And for me, I felt like my whole life was like I was just getting back my life. And then scleroderma took it away from me. And a lot of people tell me like, oh, you've lost so much weight, you look so great. And I'm like, but I'm not healthy. Like there's something wrong with me. Like, thank you for saying that, but it's really hard. So actually when I went to therapy, I started going to therapy because I was getting depressed, and I found, well, I guess it's like a scale that they have for like eating disorders. And because of everything that I had gone through, like in my teenage years and leading up to having surgery, it all kind of perpetuated that. So I didn't have an eating disorder, but I was very close to like thinking of myself in the same way. So scleroderma, it's like, you know, always like checking, like now I'm like constantly checking my skin. So it's not checking my weight. Now I'm like checking like, is this new? Is this a new symptom? So I kind of like overanalyze and like then freak myself out, and then I get myself anxiety, and then I hyperventilate. And so it's something that you like have to work on, but it's hard. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you. I mean, jumping into what you said, Amanda, do you feel like your therapy has helped you kind of find that balance of your mental illness or mental health issues? You know, because I think a lot of times there's a stigma about going and getting help for, you know, when we have physical ailments, we go to the doctor. But if you have anxiety or depression, there's a big stigma about going and asking for help and having what Kat says, a healthy, what do you say, brain health? Is that what you say, Kat?
Yeah,
Brain health? Yeah, and having good, normal, healthy brain health. So do you think it helped you, and did you get any pushback from anybody as far as seeking out therapy for some of those issues?
Yeah, so I did, when I like told people I was going to therapy, everyone's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And like freaked out that I said that I was going to therapy. And I'm like, this is like a good thing. So like don't worry, but you need to like let me do this and let me go and express to someone else. It's not you, it is not me. I can't talk to you. I need to talk to someone else who can then help me. My first therapist was actually pretty terrible. So I'm really an advocate for like if you don't find the right fit, you can always go to someone else and just keep trying, because like we advocate for our like medical health, we should advocate for like our mental health. And I found a lot of relief. I actually did like Talkspace, which is online, because it was during the pandemic when things were getting really bad for me. Just like no motivation, didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to work. I was like laying on my couch, not wanting to do anything, didn't want to clean, nothing. And I decided to go there because I didn't want to go into someone's office or, you know, do things like this is all online. And she actually really helped me to kind of like make a list every day of like what I'm grateful for, like make a list of like the things I need to get done. And like when I do have those anxiety attacks and like when I start to spiral, like stop, take a breath. And like she showed me some ways to like help manage it. So it has been helpful. It's just therapy does get expensive. So now I'm trying to find someone in my network that will take my copay, you know,
Yeah.
so I only have to pay a copay, but I definitely advocate for it. It's just hard to find someone who I think you can connect with, especially since we all have like, you know, not all therapists are going to be well versed in chronic illnesses and autoimmune diseases.
For sure.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think it's good for people to know too that like the frustrating thing about having depression, anxiety, and all these things and seeking help is it's so much advocating, which is just adds on top of the depression and anxiety. And for me, when it was time where I was like, oh, okay, gosh, now, you know, realizing that, oh, I do have depression, and like me needing to like, you know, realize that I wanted to get on medication so I could feel better and all this stuff. And you know, it wasn't like I started taking a pill and a week later I was like back to myself. It was horrible. It was like an 8-month struggle of going on and off pills to see what was best for me and all of that stuff. And so it took a lot of hard work, but it was so worth it. And once I got on like the right concoction, I felt like me again. And I think I'm a huge advocate for brain health, but like for me, antidepressants work really, really well, and also anxiety medication. I take both and it's incredible, and I'm so thankful for medication, but it was such a hard journey. And I'm also a huge advocate for therapy, but like Amanda said, it's so expensive and it's like such a bummer. Like I am looking right now and it's like, okay, I make $3 a day. Yeah, right, not even like a month on friggin' disability. So it stinks, but I feel for you guys out there, and just know that like you have to fight for yourself. And if you're feeling down or alone, like reach out to one of us, because we've been there, and like we get that like it's just the worst. You're just constantly being kicked down to the curb all the time, but once you get there, guys, it is going to help you so much more.
Yeah. Has anybody else gone and had therapy or have seeked out some help emotionally, Tiari?
Building on Kat's point, people tend to think of mental health treatment as all the same, and like there's many different mental health challenges, there's also many different mental health treatments. So it can be a really long process to find what works for you, and you have to keep at it and advocate for yourself. Like I didn't start out on medication, and I had to go through quite a few. And I also have the kidney involvement, so I literally can't take all the medications that are available. So finding something that worked for my brain and my body was really difficult. But every other aspect of your life comes into play as well. Like you can see a great therapist, but if you have a hormone imbalance, you're going to have challenges, or if you don't get enough sleep, or if you're super stressed all the time and you don't take care of yourself. But I've actually seen the same therapist since I was 13. So he's been in my life for a very long time.
That's good though.
Thank God. But if they weren't as understanding about me making payments, it would be really expensive, and medical care is very hard to come by here in Hawaii. So I'm super lucky.
Yeah. Great, thanks. Yeah, it is. It's very expensive. I want to kind of turn the corner and talk about maybe kind of piggybacking off of what we were talking about before with mental health and how everyone deals with it differently. Do you think, and maybe we can start with you, Alejandra, do you think that the way you deal with mental health issues may be different than other people because of your culture or the way that you were brought up? I mean, I myself, I'm Italian, so we're very loud and we'll tell everybody everything. So, you know, it wasn't that hard to kind of talk. It's not really hard for me to talk about my problems, even though at sometimes I'm a very private person. But do you feel like maybe you deal with even your medical issues doesn't necessarily have to be your mental health issues differently because of the way you were brought up? Alejandra, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think with me, the problem with me is I don't really talk about my problems. So I keep everything balled up until I explode. And I learned last year that it was really bad because last year I've been on depression medication or anxiety medication for years. And last year was a year that I was just not in a good place. The reason was because I wasn't talking to anyone. So I started talking more. I talked to my husband. I think my husband and my mom and maybe one friend really know what I'm going through. So that's what I changed in my life, trying to just talk more about it because I don't want to help people because I don't want them to have another stress added to their life.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, okay, let me keep it to myself. But I saw that it was the wrong thing to do. So I started talking more, and I love writing. That's something that I have always done. So I was just write what I was feeling, and that will help me a lot.
That's good. Thanks, Alejandra. Thank you for sharing. That's great. Ariane, I see your lights on, bud.
Yeah, mine's is the cultural part that you mentioned, being a male, being African American, and growing up with my family who is from the South, even though I'm from the Bay. You don't talk about it as a man and an athlete. You know, Tom mentioned that too. Like, you can't even have a glimpse of saying you're having a bad day. You'll get told right away to suck it up. And I've been hearing that. I mean, I've had some aggressive coaches even growing up in elementary, right? And so that pattern got me to the day where I don't talk about my problems. And also then you guys probably develop friends that you either talk to about movies, another one you talk to about sports. So I got friends, none of them, they'll talk to me about their problems, but as soon as I say, oh man, you know what, today, they'll change the subject quick. Now I won't do it, but like that's just where I'm at now, and I'm pretty much used to it, where I just don't talk about it, and I have other ways of getting around my stress or any other problems I'm dealing with, and I'm
What
okay.
are those? What are those other ways that you use to kind of get around it if you don't really feel comfortable talking about it?
I definitely watch shows or listen to music that gets me in a good mood. Like I still like 70s, I'll
Yeah.
put on it's hard to relax when you listen to disco and funk. I mean, you can't even sit still. Some of my favorite shows like Martin and In Living Color, I'll just throw it on. And so that's just how I get out of it. And then another thing I do is I celebrate when I relieve stress. Like let's say it's a coworker that just all the time on my nerves for however long. Once we're not working together for whatever reason, I'll celebrate that and it'll just roll with me. So I avoid the tough moments as much as I can, and then I'll take care of the good moments as much as possible.
You don't feel like the tough moments kind of bottle up then? And then you because I do that. Like I bottle it up and then I just explode.
I don't explode, but I do bottle up. I mean, it'll be there, but it's just been working this way where I just leave it. I know it's not a good thing, so I actually do refer people. I tell a lot of friends, man, you need counseling, or I'm their counselor, and I literally am, and they'll pay me in some fashion. They always do. So we'll go out and they'll say, man, you always listening and talking with me. Here go, I got your meal. So they don't, I haven't exploded yet, but I hope not to, because I don't know what that would look like if I've never done it. But I can't wave my arms too much, so I don't think I would tear up any property. But I it's just been the way I was raised, and I just think that's what I am now, unfortunately. But I don't even know how to change it. But I think I'm fine.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for sharing. I like that. I like the music part. 70s. I'm there. Tiana.
I'll send you a list.
Okay. Thanks, E. Tiana, I see you have
Yeah,
your light on.
I'm like, Kat had hers on though too.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
I just
Well,
know.
you
No,
can go first and then I'll go to Kat. That's fine.
Oh, okay. I feel like culturally, I feel like I was kind of the same. Both my parents were basically like a suck it up kind of people. I wasn't super close with my dad. We kind of grew closer. My dad actually had an aneurysm in his aorta. So my dad had heart surgery too. My mom is 30 years, like I said, post-transplant. So for me, my support system has been both two people that have told me to suck it up, and they've both been through some type of heart issue. And so for me, my problem is like they still, it's still a comparison. Like, well, I just had that done too. I know how that feels. Or like I know how that feels. I know how that feels, even though it's not the same exact situation. But it's hard because even talking with family, they've all been kind of that way. But it's a struggle because, I go over and I'm with my grandma on my dad's side, and they'll be talking about my dad, and they're like, well, they just assume that however my dad feels, that's how I feel. So, and it's the same thing with my mom's side. My grandma's like, well, your mom's been through the same stuff, and it's hard to have a support system for me, honestly, because through family, it used to be my support system, but now it's became like well, I don't feel good today either.
Yeah.
Like mine's besides the point at that moment in time. So it has always been a suck it up. It's been a suck it up, and like, it could be worse. Like you don't, and I hate when people say it could be worse, especially somebody like my mom that is like still chronically ill. Like to hear like it could be worse makes you feel horrible, because you're like, I understand that there are people that do struggle, but also in the same point we're like not validating what I'm feeling right now. So
Right.
that's affected my mental health a lot along this journey, and I've learned to really just do things by myself and alone. And I am actually looking for a therapist. that's
Good.
not within the heart program. They send the same people. So when you're a part of like a heart transplant list and you're within the hospital, they give you the same therapists. So it feels like it's always a battle of like, well, there's other people too that do, and I don't want to be compared to anybody. I want to be me, myself, with that person, and get on the meds that work for me, not on the meds that work for every heart transplant. It's not the same. They think that medically in our heads we're all kind of the same, and I got put on medication before I even knew about it myself. So that was a big struggle for me, I think, too. And so I'm trying to find just a happy medium with my support system and therapy and things like that. So
yeah, for sure. That's got to be hard having chronically ill parents, and it's kind of like a tit for tat kind of thing. Well, I did this and I came through, so you should be just fine, when it's not validating how you're feeling at the moment. So I hear it. I hear you, T. Kat, did you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like, through listening to all of you guys and through people that I've talked to for the last 10 years, like, it's all about validation. Like, there's so much mental health stems from not feeling validated, even when it comes to your mental health or your sickness or whatever it is. And so that's huge. And I hate that for everybody who doesn't get that validation. And then the other thing is one thing that I've learned, because I used to be like, like super athletic and sporty and all this stuff, and it was hard for me too to open up. And then I had this campaign and the whole world knew me and all this stuff, and I realized that by being authentic and sharing my worst days, like if you guys follow me, you know there's a reason I don't have a boyfriend. But I friggin' share everything. But like through that, it's blessed me so much. And through me being authentic with my mental health and my sickness and everything, like it's really helped me to cope in a way. And by talking through it, and I've also learned that by me being authentic helps others, you know?
Right.
So I think it's so good for everyone to have this conversation because we're all just struggling and we all just need help, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I want to kind of jump into kind of some of the factors or things that have led to your mental health issues, be it like, I know Kat and I have talked in depth about survivor's guilt and how, you know, you have all these friends that you meet from being chronically ill, and then, you know, it's just the way it goes that, you know, you lose people. And then you kind of at times feel like, well, I was sicker than him or her, and it's not a good feeling to lose people to this disease or any disease. You know, or maybe you're not being taken seriously in regards to your illness, or your family and friends are not supportive. So I'd like to know what kind of factors in your life have kind of led to you having some mental health issues. Is there anybody that kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, or share a story of maybe when you didn't feel validated in your feelings or your mental health issues? Anna? There's so many people with T's on
So many T's. You know what? A big one. I think I will always feel this, and this is, I feel like, what makes me a little bit different than y'all with your scleroderma. I get really bad survivor's remorse, not just from my chronically ill friends, but getting a transplant from somebody else's body, getting an organ from somebody else. That has been probably the most, it's bizarre. I don't ever know how to like put a label on how the feeling of it. But getting somebody else's, it's a blessing, yes. But also, you know, I'm feeling for that family, you know. I'm feeling for that family, and the thought process is like, yes, thank gosh, you know, that somebody was able to save my life, and I'm very thankful for that. But it goes through a whole process of like the fact that somebody else, you know, we have to lose somebody to gain me getting normality. And I live with that every day, you know, because people, I get so emotional about it because people constantly are like, well, like, when are you going to get a heart transplant? Like, you know, and they get all excited for me. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. You know, I have to be a match. I have to, you know, wait. I'm like, I have to wait for somebody to pass, and they don't think about that. And then it's an awkward phase of like people shutting off. And it puts not only just like a survivor's like feeling that remorse, but it feels like I'm a burden. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel awkward, because I don't like to have that conversation, you know, and it's sad for some people. And that's affected my mental health a lot because I meet a lot of new people, and, you know, they're constantly asking that. And actually, it's just been hard because a lot of people have reached out to me that are friends of other people that have the same kind of chronic illness that I do. And we actually just lost a friend on Monday. And so it's been super hard, because, you know, not only do we feel that, you know, it saved that person for a certain amount of time, but now, you know, she's gone, and like, it's, you know, it's a two life thing, you know, it's like you're fighting super hard for someone else's organ. And but the thought process just really kind of messes with your head a lot to receive that, and being in the hospital waiting, you know, it's like perfect timing. So I think that's really something that I've really struggled with, and I struggle with that every single day, especially when people ask me all the time about getting my transplant. So,
Oh, I'm so sorry about your friend. It's very hard to go through that. I'm sure all of us here have lost somebody that, we're close to, and it's difficult. So our prayers are with you, Tiana, for that. Tiari, your light's on?
Yeah, I relate to you in a different way. I'm on the kidney transplant list, and my transplant, it can come from a living donor. It doesn't necessarily come from a deceased donor, but my main donor that's being screened is my father, and I feel really weird about taking an organ from my father and just taking possession of it. And it may not work. It may not even work. So the ongoing process, the tedium of having to get screened in so many ways and get approved, and knowing that someone else had to give a part of themselves to you so that you can maybe have a healthy life, it's still not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different kind of feeling like a burden. It still feels, it's really hard to come to terms with. There was one point where they thought that they had a match for me and it turned out to not work, and it was a really young person that had died. So I felt horrible about that. It was like a 14-year-old kid, and I'm like, they died, they died in a car accident, and then they're calling me up right away saying maybe you can have this organ. It's a really, really, it doesn't get easier to deal with that. It's trauma in its own way, and it keeps happening over and over when you have that really complicated sense of hope.
Right.
How do you
deal with that though? I mean, I know when you're going through transplant and things like that, they make you go and see a therapist, right? And kind of get checked out and talk to about the issues of taking somebody else's organ and things like that. But, Tiana had said that sometimes they just look at you as just a number and not as a person. So, Chiari, how do you kind of deal with, or let me put this in a different way. How do you build up your support system around not only your physical health, but your mental health? And does that look the same as your physical support system? Or is that a little different?
I think it's pretty different, especially since, my dad is my best donor at this point, and obviously he cares about me and he would do anything to help me. But I don't think it's something that you ever really can completely come to terms with. I think there's always going to be kind of a type of guilt and a type of emotionality around it, no matter what happens. I think it's an ongoing thing to come to terms with in as part of your life as someone that needs an organ transplant.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Does anybody else want to touch on that, or do you want to kind of move forward? I have a couple more topics to talk about. I know Amanda had spoke a lot about advocating for your own well-being and mental health, and making sure you're looking for therapists and things like that. Does anybody find it hard to find their voice because it's mental health? I'm really a great advocate for myself in scleroderma and my treatments and surgeries and things like that, but when it comes to my own mental health, I tend to keep that a little bit more private, and I tend to always try to be positive about things, and sometimes when I feel uncomfortable I laugh. So I feel like when you're looking for somebody to treat your mental health, or you're looking for outlets or support systems, how do you kind of differentiate between picking somebody that you kind of get along with, or a friend that you know is kind of tell you what you want to hear, instead of somebody who's kind of going to be that support system for you, if that makes sense? Kat, do you have, I know you have the light on.
What's so frustrating too about mental health, like, and like Tiara said it, like, it comes in so many forms that it's so frustrating. And it's like we're already sick, right? So we feel like we're complaining about the normal stuff, like fatigue and all that kind of stuff. And then you add on that you're so like, no, I can't be around my family today. My anxiety is through the roof, you know, and I have zero patience for anyone's stuff. And it's, I understand, because like I don't always share it either, because it's so overwhelming to like it goes back to being a burden. It's
Right.
so frustrating.
Sometimes you don't even know, like, you can't even pinpoint where it's coming from.
Exactly. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm literally overwhelmed right now, but I have literally nothing on my calendar for 4 months. Like, but that's just how being sick is. It's like constant overwhelmness about feeling this way or that way. And when it comes to finding a therapist, I'm actually going through that too. Again, the financial aspect, but like needing someone who, for me, like I would like someone that is a Christian and like deals with chronically sick people and understands death and all of that kind of stuff. Because I met with someone like a couple weeks ago and I just did not like them at all. Like it, like they constantly invalidated me and like kept saying like, you're so young, you're not going to die. And it's like, okay, I hate you, but whatever. She was just like the worst. But anyways, it's so hard, but like I'm not going to give up, right? We have to keep going even though people are irritating all the time. But it's just, yeah, it's frustrating.
Do you feel like, I mean, talking about this now in the pandemic, I mean, it's been like a 360 of what we used to go through, even with mental health. And do you feel like it has gotten worse or better for you during the pandemic? I mean, I know for myself, I've utilized the virtual telemedicine appointments and things, so it's been easier for me to kind of deal with all my medical stuff. And I'm sure that could be the same with my emotional stuff too, but it's been very isolating because we're not as lucky, right, to be able to go out there and be like, well, if I get it, I get it. Like, that can't happen for us. You know, we have to be smarter and really kind of stay away from people. If my doctors had it their way, I wouldn't even be allowed to leave the house to go get the mail. I mean,
Even through Zoom, it could transfer through, you know.
yeah. So
Well,
I want to know, like, for you guys, how has it been in the pandemic? You know, I mean, I don't want to talk about the pandemic to death because, I
but
mean,
do you
we're
guys
all living
feel
it.
as sick people, it's kind of refreshing to like, this is how we've lived for all of the time we've been sick. Like, honestly, I'm so sorry to say this, but it's kind of nice for people to have to like experience what it's like to have to be isolated, not have anything to do. You can't do anything, feared death, being sick. Like, I know that's super selfish, but honestly, it's been kind of nice. I'm like, yeah, I've been living this for a long time, for every minute. And so, you know, welcome. Welcome.
Yeah. Tom, I saw that your light was on.
Yeah, specifically with how the pandemic's affected me, it was almost a blessing because I got diagnosed last year, and from May till October, between scans, blood work, and actual visits, I probably had like 30 different doctor's appointments because nobody else was going. So instead of it taking forever for them to figure out what was wrong, it was, oh, you have these issues. Let's now move forward. I get an X-ray the same day my doctor would have the CDs 3 hours later. So it's like that actually helped me.
Yeah.
And getting sick, it's actually a perspective changer. Like now it's mental health is always about us, right? It's like an individual thing. But like when you have issues like from your past and stuff, like everything becomes tunnel vision. It's now. Like whatever happened before, done, just gone. Because now it's Well, you're worried about the past because you worried about how it would affect your future. Now there's more things to affect it, so now that stuff's all gone.
Right. You're living in the present more than anything.
Yeah, like there's no more future, no more past. It's just now. Even though it's hard because we can't move much anymore, but it's
Yeah.
still like, well, what can I still do? And like E said, we still have our mouth, we still have our brain. So I'm trying to find ways to use my brain more, and stuff like that. And just like Kat said, finding Christian support's a big deal. Like I have some friends, and my wife and a pastor that help.
That's great. I mean, I know it's like shell shocking for you, right? Because you've only been diagnosed like around 6 months, you said, right? So it's like you're getting all this great information, but it's like being all thrown at you in like maybe 15 doctor visits. So it's so much information to kind of sort through, and then having your feelings to go with it, and then worrying about your job and worrying about your wife and worrying about your family, and all that can just build and build and build. So I appreciate that, 6 months in, you're coming here and being willing to chat with us, because at 6 months, I wasn't even telling anybody that I had scleroderma. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
For sure. Tiana, you had your light on?
I did. I think it has been a blessing. Well, also, I would like to say this. I wore a mask before they were cool. I wore a mask a lot of the time. I was constantly, every time I'd go in for a doctor's visit, I was, just because I'm exposed to so much. And being on a heart transplant list, getting sick is a no. You don't want to get any more sick than just your normal chronic illness sick. Getting other sicknesses, even just the simple as like a cold, can really affect my body. I'm sure it does the same thing with you guys, but it can affect your body, and that can take me off of a transplant list for a time period. And I want to avoid that. So, but what I will say is, I don't know. When I got diagnosed, obviously it was like a very turn in my life, and I am such a go-getter, and I worked 4 or 5 jobs before the pandemic. Yeah, Kat used to think I was crazy. She'd be like, "You need to slow down," and I was like, "I don't know how, because that's how I lived my life." And the pandemic happened, and my doctors are like, "You can't go to work, right?" And I was like, "I can't go to work." Like, I didn't know I didn't know how to slow down. I didn't take care of myself. I was barely getting sleep. I was working 50 hours a week, 50 to 80 hours a week, multiple jobs. I never took a break. And I had to stop everything. And finally, it gave me time to really channel my sickness and figure out what I needed to work on. For me, mine was a huge thing about, I hit such a depression point. I gained 125 pounds almost, from when I got sick, and I just kept gaining weight and gaining weight, and I just kept putting it on the back burner. I was just like, I don't care. And I had this I don't care mentality for a really long time, and I used that as my excuse to like fill up my schedule so I wasn't focusing on myself. And this pandemic has made it so that I've had to focus on myself. I've dropped 73 pounds in this pandemic working on myself. And I think that's kind of like, I flipped a switch. I flipped my attitude. I'm learning, kind of like what Thomas was saying, you're learning to just be in the moment and be in the now. So every day I take it by, a grain of salt. I'll wake up and I'm like, okay, you know what? I have 100%, I have 85% today. I can do things, and I'll get things on my list done, and I have more time to really just like really channel myself. And if I'm not feeling good in that moment, it's nice that I can just go take a nap, because before I couldn't do that. I didn't know what a nap was. So I think this pandemic's really helped me to really figure out who I was and really slow my life down. And also now I just feel like I'm able to be a homebody, and now I get anxious going to the store. I don't want to leave. I don't want to do anything.
Right. I think we've talked like so much about trying to be positive and trying, you know, if we have depression or anxiety and what that looks like. And I kind of wanted to touch a little bit, if Tiare is willing, on the effects when it goes awry. And when you're not able to kind of get on track, and kind of what that looks like, and if you would be willing to share a little bit of your mental health journey with us.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I am a suicide attempt survivor. I did attempt suicide via pills. Obviously did not work. I was hospitalized. I was given a treatment to help to nullify the effects of the medicine that I'd taken, and then I was committed in the mental health ward. So I did go through really intensive mental health rehabilitation. So that involved being completely cut off from everyone, and just being there with the doctors that were talking through things with me. And they also brought in a palliative care specialist that worked with me, since my circumstances were kind of different than what they're used to. So it was the hardest thing I've had to deal with in my life, but it was also the biggest blessing that I ever received, because I couldn't get lower. That was it. And I had to learn to rebuild from no good standing and self-esteem, and rebuild myself as a person, essentially. And it was really difficult and very painful, but you know, it forced me to acknowledge that there was an issue, and that it had to be addressed, and that I was not taking care of my mental health like I should have been leading up to that point. And that's why I had a nervous breakdown. I tried to overly positive, not address the issue, let it get really, really bad, and then literally lost my mind. So when you talk about needing a support system and getting medications and seeking out care and reaching out to others, you know, all of that is not only important early on, but it's also an ongoing process. You know, you don't just talk to a therapist for a few sessions and then you're cured and you're never going to be depressed again. It's an ongoing effort, and you're going to have really good days and really hard days. And the pandemic for me had both of those. It had days that were great and I had a great time and I could relax, and there were other days that I barely got out of bed. And that's the reality of having chronic depression instead of reactive depression, where you're only reacting to something difficult or sad that happened. It's a part of your life and your health that has to be managed just like any other part of health.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That was, you know, it's really powerful to hear somebody's story about their mental health and your journey, and it's really inspiring. And I'm glad that you're still here with us, for sure. We have about 5 minutes left, and I wanted to see if anybody in the audience had any questions. So I'm just gonna quickly scroll through and see if anybody had any questions. While I'm doing that, do you guys want to kind of talk about if there's any other factors that kind of add to your mental health besides your illness, whether it be family, friends, school. Is there anything else besides having heart issues or having scleroderma that can affect your mental health? And would anybody want to share anything about that really quick while I check these?
I think it was mentioned a couple times because a lot of patients that I meet, appearance is usually the first thing a lot of people talk to me about, whether it's their face or their body structure. Thomas, I mentioned not being able to play sports, especially if you play your whole life. I avoided college basketball for about 6 years purposely. I didn't want to coach. I didn't see my coaches. He would come. He didn't play too far. I was like, I can't come to the games now. But now I'm back involved. I'll coach if I can get a chance out there. I go to all the games. But when you lived away or did something a lot, and you can't do it at all, then that kind of, and you're still there, but your body's like, nah, we're not doing that no more, so. But I ski now, so that made up for it. So I'm okay.
That's good. That's amazing. We don't really have any.
Mine's just friends. I don't know about you guys, but like it's such a struggle. Like I love my healthy friends, but man, they're so annoying. Like, they're having a bad hair day or like they stub their toe and I'm like, well, I threw up for 5 hours last night and I hate my life. Like, let's play tit for tat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you guys, but like it's a constant like, cat, be nice. Cat, check yourself. And
Right.
it's just like, and it's all the time. I mean, with family members too, it's like I have to remember, I have to literally like actively remind myself that other people's problems matter. And I know that sounds so narcissistic, but it's hard when like every minute of your day is just hell, and like constantly in misery. So I don't know about you guys, but like it's a disaster.
I mean, honestly, sometimes I relish in other people's problems because
I know, same.
It takes like the pressure off of me having to constantly talk about all my problems and what I'm going through. So you broke up with your boyfriend, please tell me. I'd love to hear it because then I don't have to talk about all the crap that I'm going through,
My depression is relying on others, and acid reflux actually is my biggest issue. I used to love to eat. I don't eat. I haven't seen my family for a holiday for about 20 years because I couldn't deal with the acid reflux. They'd make you a little bowl with some rice and a roll, but you can't eat nothing else. And, when you go out, you're like, it's not even vegan. You're not gluten free. Just like everything's made with butter and oil. So honestly, if you love to eat, then you're told, nah, you can't really eat. My diet is, I just have to avoid stuff. Like Mexican food. Cali got good Mexican food, but I can't touch it no more. My bad, Tom.
That's okay.
It's fine. I was going to say pride.
Yeah.
Like I know when we had the little like panel thing the other day. I know I mentioned that. It's definitely a check. Like we were talking about sports a lot, but you play basketball, football, rugby, lifted, and all that. Like when you can physically make anything happen that you want to, and then when you can't, to the point of where I now have tools to help me open up jars.
Yeah.
And like that is a lot of stress in and of itself, like learning how to get that out of the picture.
Yeah.
Because I'm now getting used to telling people, no, I can't do something today. Like I'm already getting used to that because it's happened so many times.
And it's hard, right? To have to tell somebody.
It is. And it makes you feel
to cry a lot and laugh a lot.
Yeah. But telling yourself
I think it's good to laugh a lot. You know what I mean? I mean, because I cry a lot. Don't get me wrong. I know it's shocking, but I laugh so much. Like I just because I think everything, like when I get really frustrated, I do start laughing just because I'm like, if somebody was videotaping me right now, like this is the most pathetic life anyone's ever lived. But I mean, it's pretty dang hilarious, really. So.
But I mean, Kat, if you think back to when you were first diagnosed, like the first 6 months of it, like I wasn't doing too much laughing. I was super
Mm.
angry about everything, and pretty much in denial that anything was wrong with me because I didn't feel really sick. So it took me a while to kind of get to the place where we at now, where, oh, I crapped my pants today. Oh, it's funny, just laugh about it,
Yeah. It's
But
so hard
yeah,
too. Everyone's
Wait, we
body
laughing about what?
crapping your
Oh,
pants.
pooping your pants.
oh, that must be something cultural I missed. I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all finish that off.
Well, we're about the end of our panel here, and I want to give all my panelists a big round of applause for coming here and taking the time and talking about this topic. It's very hard to kind of get in and talk about your emotions. So I thank you all. I want to thank everybody else for being here, all the attendees. And if you have, I really just want to end it with, suicide and taking your own life is a tragic reaction to a stressful situation, and more tragic because suicide can be prevented. Whether you're considering suicide or you know someone who feels suicidal, learning suicidal warnings and signs and how to reach out for immediate help and professional treatment can really save a life. It could save your life. It could save somebody else's life. It may seem like there's no way to solve problems and that suicide is the only way out, but it's not. There are resources out there, and there are people that can help you. So in the chat, I have put a link to a mental health awareness website, and then also the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I know we kind of talked more on the lighter side of mental health, and we didn't really dive too deep into suicide and all the things that encompasses mental health and mental illness, but I'd like to maybe touch base on this topic again further on down the road. And I hope everybody has a great night, and you guys are not alone. If you ever have any issues or anything, you could reach out to any of us on the panel and talk. You could always reach out to me if there's a specific topic that you want to talk about on the panel, and we could do that. So I really appreciate everybody's time. Have a great weekend. Love you all, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys. Have a great night.
Hi, everybody.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.